Hey guys, Andrew from the Loaded Dice podcast here, coming to give you a bit of a campaign update on Asphodel Bridge, Chapter 2, which is running next Saturday at the Combat Company in Mortdale. That's our 30k campaign for 2020 that we're running. So we've had one campaign day already back in February, but that seems like a distant memory at the moment because of COVID-19. So we're getting our second day underway in about 7 days time, which is really awesome. And what I'm going to do today is just quickly run through a few things that are worth knowing about the campaign. I know some people played with us on campaign day 1, which was really cool. So this will be a bit of a refresh. I know I had to give myself a refresh as well. When I was going through and rereading some of the stuff that was going on, getting ready for next week. So first up, I want to just talk about the sort of the nuts and bolts, what the format for next week is, what we're planning on doing game-wise, when we're getting there, all that sort of fun stuff. So like Chapter 1, this week is operating with the same players pack. So there are 3 formats. You've got Age of Darkness, which is 2,500 points. Okay, any Force Org you would like to use except Leviathan. If for some reason you really want to use Leviathan, get in touch with me, have a bit of a chat. If there's a really good narrative reason for why you want to use it, I might consider it. But you definitely also need to bring a normal Force Org 2,500 point army at the same time. Later on in the year, for other events, we're definitely going to be doing some bigger, APOC-sized battles, 2v2s and stuff like that. So potentially leave that sort of stuff for then. We're also going to be doing some smaller stuff as well, Zone Mortalis, Centurion, and all that sort of fun. So Age of Darkness is 2,500 points. The only thing you must have in your army is your campaign character. So if you look in the players pack, you'll note that you have to have one character in your army that appears in every army list throughout the year, unless he gets knocked over for some reason. And basically that person can gain upgrades and all that sort of fun stuff. So that's something we'll talk about in a little bit as well, because we're releasing the upgrade system in the next day or so. For Adeptus Titanicus and for Aeronautica Imperialis, which are the other 2 formats that we're running next week, and that's the same as Chapter 1. They're the same as well as far as roster sizes and army list sizes go. So if you look at that original players pack, we're running the same thing for Chapter 2 as we did for Chapter 1, just to sort of kick everything back off as easily as possible. And as I said, down the track, probably for the next event, we'll change things up, have a few more options for people to play and that sort of thing, which is really cool. Tickets must be pre-purchased, guys, just because of the world we currently live in with COVID and everything. We need to make sure we've got everybody's details, names, telephone numbers. You'll have to sign in at the venue as well. Numbers are strictly limited, so we have a cap of 20 people. At the moment, I think there's still a couple of tickets left. I've got to double check after this weekend. But basically, yeah, jump on the Combat Company website. There's a link in the event pack that's like a buy tickets link, or you can just go to their website and click on the event tab and you'll be able to buy them from there, which is really good. Once you've bought a ticket, can you make sure you get in touch with either myself, Doug Taylor, or Robert Barlow, and just let us know what you're playing, so what format you're playing. For the first event, we had 3 different tickets up on the website. There was a Titanicus, Aeronautica, and Age of Darkness one. We're not doing that this time. We've just got 1 ticket. So just get in touch and tell us what you're playing. At the moment, it looks like we've got people for every system, which is really cool. So it should be a really fun day. The other thing, I guess, and for people that are watching this and maybe haven't played in one of our campaigns over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, or definitely haven't played day 1 for Asphodel, it is a narrative campaign. So as much as you can kind of, win battles and things like that, you're teamed up. So you're either going to be a loyalist or a traitor player, and you keep that for the campaign, okay? And basically it's about what happens for your team at the end of 2020. Like, where are you as a team? How many points you've got? So if you ever see any reference to campaign points or CP, that's basically how we work out who triumphs in the campaign. And that's obviously all tied to the map of Charron II, which is the planet that we're fighting over in the Asphodel Bridge campaign. So that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of everything. Oh, one thing I do need to add, in terms of like painting standards and things like that, guys, we do prefer fully painted, although we definitely understand that there are some, there are some really good reasons why that doesn't happen sometimes. So what we ask is that at least everything in your army is base coated. That is not undercoated, so that is not flat white or flat black. What we're talking about is base coated, which means your base color for Ultramarines, that is blue. For Emperor's Children, that is purple. For Blood Angels, that is red. So as long as everything is a solid, identifiable color that works with your army, we're pretty happy with that. However, if you don't have a fully painted army, you're obviously not in the running for the painting prizes. And if you do have a fully painted army, you actually gain your team campaign points. So if you turn up without a fully painted army, you're not maximizing the points that your team could be getting on any game day. So we definitely suggest that everybody gets some hobby on and gets everything painted. Okay, and fully painted, to us, the easiest way to deal with this is basically say, look at what Games Workshop's version of Battle Ready is. So that includes basing stuff and whatnot. And that's pretty much what we consider to be fully painted when we take a look at people's armies at the beginning of the day and start doling out those command points to people. So it should be pretty easy, guys. Obviously, we completely understand life, the universe, especially over the last couple of months, may have put a complete dampener on your hobby time. Completely okay. The other thing, is, of course, is we have loaner armies. Here at the Loaded Dice, we've got probably 2 or 3 loaner armies we can lend out to people if you want to use them. So if you've got a friend that wants to potentially get into heresy or something like that, is a newbie, or somebody who's only halfway through an army, doesn't have enough stuff for 2,500 points, more than welcome to come and have a conversation with us. We can bring an army along, work out an army list for you over the next week. So hit us up if you'd like to do that. I think at the moment my Death Guard are getting lent out for next week, but there's still the other half of the Death Guard army, there's an Alpha Legion army, and a few things like that. So we can definitely set you up without any problems at all. Okay, the next thing that we just wanted to sort of recap and go over is the fluff for the Siege of Asphodel Bridge. So one thing that people keep asking me is, they're like, hang on, it's Asphodel Bridge, but the planet is Charron, and what's kind of going on? Yeah, so basically Asphodel Bridge is referring to the warp anomaly that exists around the planet of Charron that we're fighting over. And that is that we have 2 stable warp routes that exit at Charron. They don't link, so they are 2 separate. One of them goes from Ultramar, the Empire of Ultramar in the Galactic East, to the system of Charron, which is sort of right on the edge of Imperial space. Like obviously it's been claimed by the Ultramarines for the Imperium, but it's sort of like a frontier system, and there's not anything around it. And then there's another one that leaves Imperial space altogether. From Charron, it goes out, okay, and comes back again. So it's been used for most of the Crusade as a staging point, a resupply point for Imperial fleets that are sort of pushing out those Crusade boundaries, expeditionary fleets that are leaving the Imperium and disappearing for decades at a time. And it's also sort of considered to be, so the planet Charron in the system is considered to be the fortress that sits over, this bridge. And it seems to be in a really interesting spot. So Imperial scholars sort of have a whole lot of theories about whether it's a naturally occurring phenomena, or whether there is some sort of, potentially Xenos influence that has created this setup. When it was originally found, the First Astartes expeditionary fleet that by accident arrived there out of Ultramar, they got spat out there. They basically used it as an eye of the storm, resupply, reset, work out what was going on. And as they were sitting there, a giant orc space hulk came out of one of the warp gates. And the really interesting thing about the Asphodel Bridge is, instead of being in the outer system, away from all the gravity wells, away from the planets and the suns. It's actually right over the planet of Charron, which is also incredibly strange. So this Orc Space Hulk basically translated back into real space, not much higher up than High Anchor, and started to unleash on all of the Astartes ships. They eventually crippled it and scuttled it on the planet of Charron, and it's all broken up and all over there. If you have a look at the campaign map, there's references to it there. There is a small orc population on Charron, not quite hunted to extinction over the last couple of decades by the Astartes, but some of them use them as sport, all sorts of things. There's orc mercenaries that occasionally do things, but they're basically just wildlife on Charron at this point, or are they? We don't know yet. But that's Charron and that's Asphodel. So once the Imperium realized how important, strategically vital, this system was, sitting between these warp routes, they decided, Gilliman decided that it needed to be turned into a fortress world, and it needed to be a resupply station for Imperial fleets. So he spoke to his brothers, and knowing how jealous that they can get and how important Charron would be, he, I guess, tried to offer them some of the glory and some of the honor of holding this point, and said that he wanted some of their Legion forces to come and garrison the planet. So currently there are representatives from all 18 legions on the surface of Charron II. Some of them, like the Ultramarines, who are the largest force there. The Emperor's Children have a significant force, so do the Blood Angels and the Iron Warriors. But they have their bastions and their setups on the planet. Some of the other legions, like the White Scars and the Alpha Legion, have only very small contingents. Or maybe they're not small, we don't know. But there's a little bit of everything on the planet. There's obviously also, Imperial Army, Imperial, well, I guess they're not Imperial Navy quite yet, but there's, different forces from all over the Imperium there, and it is a proper fortress setup. Event Day 1, Chapter 1, back in February, was a bit strange because this is quite early on in the heresy, so what sort of happened is that the soldiers, the Astartes that are on Charron, have sort of been tasked with, it could be a decade or 2 decades worth of garrison service, and then they sort of rotate out. They were cut off. Obviously, the warp storms that sort of went through the galaxy, especially around Ultramar, with the Word Bearers and Kauth and everything else, they've been cut off. And as much as they don't know what's going on, they're being good soldiers and following orders, and they're staying there and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the traitors, who nobody knew were traitors at the time, they were getting communications. They knew that Kauth was going on. Some of them knew that Prospero had happened, and they knew that Istvan was going to happen and has happened at this point. So the traitor legions even started to purge themselves on Charron, and that's in some ways how the loyalists sort of started finding out something strange was happening. Was there were, I guess, loyal Astartes from some of those legions that were escaping these purges. There's a really cool bit of fluff that we did up for the Death Guard that was about them purging their ranks on Charron, going through their fortress that they have there. And the loyalists started getting all sorts of reports, and they're like, what the hell is going on? We need to go and try and work out what's happening. Obviously not wanting to believe that their brothers had turned traitor. And so that first campaign day was, nobody on the loyalist side really knew what was happening. They were, leaving their strongholds, and they were meeting other forces, and they were like, whoa, hang on, you guys are our allies, what's happening? And then the traitors were firing on them. So now going into campaign day 2, it is open warfare. Everybody knows what is now going on, or at least the loyalists have marked all the traitor legions kill on sight. And they're just planning on retaking Charron. Whether they believe that Horus has turned traitor and those sort of things is sort of immaterial, to be honest, because as far as they're concerned, they're fighting for their life for whatever reason something's happened. And that's sort of where we get to in Chapter 2. Obviously, the Titan legions that are on the planets, they have picked their sides, as have the Imperial Army and the rest of it. So it sets up a really interesting sort of dynamic now, where each side is really trying to push the other side completely off the map and obliterate them to try and take over Charron. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are fluff-wise at the moment. In regards to sort of Chapter 1, the scores at the end of the day were 108 to the Loyalists, 292 to the Traitors. Now, obviously, that was after one campaign day, so you could put on quite a few points. So at the moment, we don't see that anybody is in front of anybody else, considering there's only 10 points different. As a result, it is absolutely neck and neck. The Traitors had their ploy and made their play for, their surprise attacks. In the first round, that seemed to do quite well, but the Loyalists, obviously all being on garrison duty and ready to defend the world against, any sort of Gribblies from the outer darkness trying to get into the Imperium, they were ready to go, and they were very quick. And potentially that was sort of the Ultramarines and their overarching tactical philosophy, and those sort of things that helped them out. In regards to the map and the territories, I wish I could hold it up for you, but it's absolutely massive, and it's still sort of in storage in my garage. So what we're going to do is over the next day or so, we're going to upload some photos of it that have got all the territories marked out. If you either can't remember or you haven't sort of heard this yet, it is a territory kind of think like a Total War game or Risk or something like that. There's a whole bunch of territories on the map, and some of them have got special abilities or things like that. So you've got hive cities, you've got refineries, armories, planetary defense, defense fortresses, you've got missile batteries, you've got airfields, stuff like that. You've also got territories that can only be taken by people playing Titanicus and Aeronautica, which is also really cool. So you do need to have some people on your team playing Titanicus and Aeronautica if you want to be able to access those territories and the rest of it, which is cool. The other thing that's worth talking about at the moment is other ways you can get campaign points. So obviously you get campaign points for, as we say, bringing a fully painted army to an event. That's a really important one. You get campaign points for winning games. You also get them for drawing and for losing games. Obviously, there's different rungs of it, which we'll go through next week. But you can also get campaign points for doing things like writing up fluff on your characters and your army. You can get campaign points for bringing a table of terrain to the event. While we can definitely supply all the terrain, it's really cool that we know there's a ton of awesome boards out there. So if you've got a board and you want to bring it next week, get in touch with us and let us know sort of as early as you can. So sort of the next day or two, because it means I don't have to pack everything up and get it in the car. But you'll get campaign points for that. You can also get campaign points for particularly narrative things that go on during the day. We're definitely going to be exploring things like special missions and objectives for teams and those sort of things. And we'll be talking with the War Masters and going over it. So there'll be a whole lot of different things, and everything contributes to that overall score at the end of the day, which is really, really cool. The last thing I just want to touch on quickly is your campaign character. So as I said at the beginning of this video, campaign character is the one guy you've got to have, and I would generally imagine it's going to be a Praetor. It doesn't have to be a Praetor, it could be a Centurion, it could be anybody that's a character, but they have to appear in every single one of your lists for the entire campaign. This character, as he goes through the campaign, is able to earn advancements. Now, the system we're going to be using, just because we're sort of compressing the campaign a little bit because of what's happened with sort of COVID, is the Forge World progression system that I think is either book 3 or book 4. That's the black books. So that's what we're going with. We're going to put up, as once again, over the next day or so, we'll put into each war room copies of that, and you guys will be able to go through. Now, if you played in the first day back in February, your guys will get some sort of advancements from that, and it's sort of usually based on whether they won games, did certain things in games. Even if you lost games and stuff, as long as your character didn't die, you usually get some advancements as well. If you haven't played the campaign before, there's not going to be any advancements. You still need to bring a character, and from sort of next Saturday, that will give you advancements. I know the Titanicus guys are doing a similar system. I think they're using one probably out of their rulebook. And Doug for Aeronautica, he's also using something, whether it's the ACE system, I'm not too sure, but that will get talked about with the players next week. But yeah, that's something that's coming out. Obviously, guys, we're not going to particularly police it. We do know who won what last event. We've got all that sort of stuff. So if you don't know and you want to ask us, come and talk to us. We can give you what your stats are and say, yeah, look, you won this game and you did this and you did that, and then you'll be able to go through and roll up those advancements. But basically, it's an honor system like most things. We're not playing for sheep stations, so it's narrative. I guess if you want to cheat at toy soldiers, this probably isn't where you should be anyway. But yeah, so that's something that's really, really cool. I know some guys are actually building characters for this campaign, so they're modeling them. They're going to be adding things and all sorts of stuff. Maybe somebody gets some sort of war wound and they end up with a bionic arm or something cool. So those sort of extra things, if you're doing those little hobby projects as well, let us know about it. Put it up in your war rooms and stuff, and there's probably some campaign points there as well for people that are really getting into it. So I've been talking for like 20 minutes, and you've been looking at my face, and I know most people don't want to do that for 20 minutes straight. So all I'll say from here, guys, is don't forget you've got to pre-purchase tickets, please. Combat Company website under the events tab, or you can go through our event page on Facebook. Make sure you're in either the Loyalist or the Trader War Room for whatever team you're playing for. If you need loaner armies, let us know. We can sort them out for you. And we'll see you guys at the Combat Company next Saturday. And look out for some things like the character advancements and the map stuff that I said we're going to put up in the next day or so. But look forward to seeing you guys all on the battlefield next weekend. Take it easy.